What's up, friends? Welcome into episode 9 of Tables, Tailgates, and Top Loaders. So happy to have you all aboard for this episode. I am your host, TB. Thank you all very much for stopping in and checking out the 3 T's. We have a lot to get to, so let's not waste any time. Let's dive right in. I want to start off with this crazy story that has rocked the hobby world last week involving potentially one of the biggest fraud operations in history. So the timeline, if you all have seen this, the timeline of this story is absolutely bonkers. Last Tuesday, July 15th, the Westfield Police Department, located in Indiana, they raided a warehouse belonging to a man named Brett Lemieux, and he's also known by the name Mister Mancave. Now, Brett has run this sports memorabilia business, Mister Mancave, for about 20 years, so 2 decades. Well, the police, they had a search warrant and they hit his house, this warehouse he owned, and they seized enough property from this warehouse to fill multiple semi-trucks. So that's how much stuff we're talking about. And all this product that they seized was tied to an illegal forgery and counterfeiting enterprise, which is crazy. So after the raid on Tuesday, the police show up with a search warrant, all these semi-trucks, take all this property. And then after the raid on Tuesday, Brett Lemieux, Mister Mancave, goes on Facebook and essentially admits to everything. He basically writes a complete manifesto in which he goes into extreme details about how he ran this massive sports memorabilia scam. He claims to have sold more than 4 million counterfeit items over the last 20 years, 2 decades, and what he claims he made over $350 million along the way. Now, we're not just talking about baseball cards. We're talking about memorabilia that's been slapped with authentic, quote unquote, authentic autographs from the biggest names in sports. So not just baseball, we're talking football, Tom Brady; baseball with Aaron Judge; football, Patrick Mahomes; baseball, Derek Jeter; basketball, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. The list goes on and on. Some of the biggest names in current sports and in memorabilia, sales, essentially. So he goes into crazy details about companies he's worked with. I mean, he's name dropping Panini, he's name dropping Fanatics, he's calling out specific people who have helped him along the way and how they went about creating these fake autographs, fake holograms, fake authentication stickers, fake letters of authenticity. I mean, it's all in there. He details everything in this Facebook post. It's a crazy, super long dissertation, and I'm reading this thing and I'm thinking, holy freaking crap, this is absolutely insane. So he talks about Kobe Bryant and how after he passed away, after his death, they released 80,000 fake items into the sports memorabilia market. He talks about 100,000 fake Tom Brady items being out there, which, if you know me, TB, this really solidifies my point that he is actually the fake TB. But you have Mahomes, Aaron Judge, Michael Jordan. We're talking about the biggest names in the collectible space, people spending thousands upon thousands for autographs, signed memorabilia, and a huge portion of this stuff out in the market is now thought to be completely fake. So he continues to write that this warehouse that was raided, the police took $500 to $700 million worth of product, and he says he just let it all happen. He goes on to say he wants companies like Fanatics and such to admit what's been going on and be forthcoming about where a lot of these autographs have come from. He basically says he wants to ruin the industry. It's straight bonkers. He goes into detail about how he got these autograph pens and how he would learn to manufacture these signatures, and it became like an addiction, and he just was making so much money that he just kept doing it over and over, and it's crazy. So then Wednesday, the next day, police, so they raid the warehouse on Tuesday. He posts this thing on Facebook. Wednesday, the police show up to raid a second warehouse that he owns. And this is where the story takes an even darker turn. They show up to the second warehouse and they find a body in the second warehouse, later identified as none other than Brett Lemieux. So apparently after he dropped his Facebook manifesto, he goes to his other warehouse and he shoots himself, which is crazy sad. It's just unreal. It's insane. So yeah, I mean, things got things get dark really quick. So in addition to this Mister Mancave persona and business that he ran, he also ran an online eBay store called Break the Bank Autos, which according to eBay, it showed 21,000 items have been sold through his account up to July 17th. And again, these were autographed itoms from superstars, Derek Jeter, Joe Montana, the list goes on and on. The account, as of now, as of today, the account has since been removed. I'm not exactly sure when they cut the account, but a few days ago. So the account is no longer active. There's no way around this. This is a huge story, and I'm kind of a little surprised that it's not getting more traction. I mean, a lot of people could be out tons and tons of money if what is alleged to have happened is actually true. Now, some people are saying, well, he was probably exaggerating. Some of the figures don't really make sense, but regardless, if 50%, 75% of the numbers he's talking about are actually true, I mean, we're talking about potentially one of, if not the biggest scam in the history of sports memorabilia. And I have a feeling more and more of this story is going to continue to be uncovered over the next few weeks, months, maybe even years. I mean, I think this is going to be huge. And I really hope nobody tries to cover this stuff up. But the weird thing that I was kind of figuring out or finding as I'm digging into this story, the sad part is I read a ton of articles on this. And the fact that this guy, Brett Lemieux, committed suicide is almost an afterthought in this whole story. And it's like, you look at all these insane details and you're reading all this stuff, and then it's just kind of tucked in there at the end of the article. Oh yeah, by the way, he killed himself. And it's just like, really? This is kind of what we've come to as a society, I guess, which I don't really want to go down that path. But anyway, it's nuts. It's just absolutely nuts. So let's try to change our attention to something hopefully a little more positive and talk about some card releases. Now, I have to say, maybe it's because I just don't collect basketball stuff anymore. Now, I did when I was a kid, loved collecting like Skybox and NBA hoops and things like that, but I haven't gotten back into basketball the way I've gotten back into some of this other stuff. But I went to Walmart the other day. I go to the card aisle, and I've said this before, that this Walmart, this local Walmart, is an awful place to find product. But the whole shelf, at least the product that's actually in stock, the entire shelf is made up of nothing but basketball cards. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? At least 5 to 7 different basketball products. Is no one buying this stuff? Because it's all I can find. It's all I can find anywhere. And apparently, not only do I not want it, but no one else wants it. Now, all I want to see when I go check out a card aisle is a nice mix of stuff. You know, if I go to a card wall, I want to see it like spread out like Thanksgiving dinner, right? I want a little bit of everything. I want choices, people. Give me some freaking choices. Stop with an entire wall of basketball product that no one wants. Give me some choices. Give me the 4 main sports, so baseball, football, basketball, hockey. Throw in some UFC maybe some auto racing, which, quick side note, I went to see the F1 movie, by the way, and it was awesome. Brad Pitt, I know a lot of people don't like Brad Pitt, but his movies are pretty good, pretty great. It was super fun. I mean, it was a blast. It was a fun movie to watch. So now, as a result of seeing freaking F1, I want to start opening maybe some F1 cards. So maybe you should make the product available someplace. Give me some choices, people. Give me some choices. WWE, God forbid you are a WWE fan and you're trying to find some product. You cannot find this anywhere. There's no sealed WWE Chrome on shelves, retail shelves, anywhere. And the prices, the secondary market prices for WWE Chrome is ridiculous. I don't know what Topps was thinking back in January, but if you remember the WWE Topps Chrome release, it's back in January. It sells out instantly. Hobby boxes are now $600-$700. Mega boxes are $100 to $150. Blaster boxes are $80. And I'm like, what is happening? This is insane. So where are the other releases? Topps got the licensing deal to WWE, and they promised that during 2025 there was going to be 4 to 5 new card releases of WWE product. And we are now in almost August, and we've gotten one that debuted all the way back in January, and it's so expensive nobody can buy it. So what is going on? Whoever's doing the distribution, y'all got to get your stuff together. Nobody is buying your basketball product. Take it off the shelf. Replace it with something else. Give us something else. Anyway, it's super frustrating. It's super frustrating, and I know that people are like, well, that's retail for you. You should be buying hobby boxes. Yeah, well, you know what, people, not everybody can afford $300 to $800 for a hobby box, because it's not just about chasing autographs. People actually like to collect cards, which leads me to my next point. The Superman movie came out. So far, it seems to be a huge commercial success, and people seem to like it. And a few days ago, Upper Deck released a new Superman product called Fleer Brilliance. Now, this is not based off the movie. It's based off the actual comic book world, but I've looked into this a little bit. I gotta say, I'm a little excited about it. I've been diving back into the comic world lately. Been reading a ton of different stuff to find kind of what I like, what I don't like. I've been reading a lot of Superman comics. I actually had a GameStop gift card, and what I did, I got on there, ordered me up a mega box of this Superman Fleer Brilliance product, and I can't wait to dive into this thing. The base set is only 90 cards, so it shouldn't be that hard to put the set together. Now, in this series, this release, there's no hobby box option. There's no autographs, but so all you get as your options are mega boxes and 3 different blaster variations. So depending on what retail store you buy it in, whether it's Walmart, Target, GameStop, you get a different blaster variation with different parallels. But in the mega box runs you about $50. You get 70 cards in a mega. There's some numbered stuff in there, some parallels, and I looked at the inserts. Some of these inserts are awesome. They have an insert called Classic Covers, which showcases a classic comic book cover throughout history. These are cool. These are really cool. And then what I think is going to be your big chase of the product, there's an insert called Last Son of Krypton, which these are really cool, and they're probably going to be super tough to pull, but it's going to be a cool product. I'm really looking forward to ripping it. So there we go. Anyway, let's turn our attention to the gridiron, to the world of the Buffalo Bills. Bills Mafia, how are we feeling this week? Training camp is about to get underway. We are about to jump right back, or at least I know I'm about to jump right back on the hype train. I'm ready for my hope meter to start filling up again. If you listen to the podcast an episode ago, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm getting fired up for some football. I'm getting excited. Bills fans, I wanted to look at the upcoming schedule this episode, and I wanted to kind of break it down just a little bit differently, because everyone seems to be attacking this thing 1 week at a time. You know, you start at week 1, you go through the end of the season, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's boring. No one cares. No thanks. I don't want to do it. I want to take a different spin. And what I want to do is I want to view the schedule by ranking the opposing quarterbacks that Bills are going to be facing off against during the upcoming season. So I took a quick look at the teams. I looked at their quarterbacks, and I asked myself, how important are each one of these games? Is the importance of the game tied to how I feel about the opposing quarterback? So do I look at this game? Do I think it's important? And is that level of importance tied to how I feel about the opposite quarterback? I looked at 2 factors. Number 1, do I freaking hate the guy? And number 2, do I fear the guy who's breaking the huddle for the other team? So I created a totally non-scientific survey, which I sent to friends and family, some willing, maybe unwilling participants. Who knows? I'm not sure, but they all filled it out. Anyway, I asked them to rate these quarterbacks on a love-hate scale and on a fear factor scale. So first scale, love-hate scale, 1 to 5 possible points that are broken down like this. You get 1 point if you love the quarterback, meaning if you weren't rooting for the Bills, if they weren't your team, this guy, you love him so much you would buy a jersey. So 1 point. 2 points if you think, yeah, this guy's pretty cool. He's pretty easy to root for. 3 points if you have no opinion, you don't really care either way. 4 points if this quarterback gets on your nerves and you are definitely not a fan. And then 5 points if, this is my favorite, 5 points if you want to punch his stupid face. So there you go. 1 to 5 possible points, love-hate scale. Second scale, this is the fear factor scale. Again, we're using 1 to 5 points. It's broken down like this. You get 1 point if you think the quarterback is a total joke and you have absolutely no worries about this guy whatsoever. You get 2 points if you think they pose really no kind of major threat. 3 points if you think they could sometimes be an issue, so like flip a coin, 50-50. 4 points if this QB makes you nervous, if he kind of gives you the sweaty palm feeling. And 5 points if you think that the opposing quarterback is a total season wrecker. So there you go. Those are the 2 scales. I had everybody fill out these surveys. I then totaled up the points, and I ranked them from smallest point total to highest point total, creating what I call an importance scale. Here is the 2025 Bills schedule according to this very extreme scientific survey based on hate and fear. So here we go. The least important game of the year. We start off with week 4, home against the New Orleans Saints, and possibly now, because I couldn't really have the Saints. They weren't locked into their starter, but as of right now, it's Spencer Rattler. The reviews were in from all the people who did my survey, and it was unanimous. Everyone said this guy's a total joke. He had the lowest fear factor by far of all the opposing quarterbacks, and as far as likability, all but one seemed to not really care about him in the slightest. Now, I did have one person who filled out the survey said they saw a Netflix show about 6 years ago, and they've hated them since. So shout out, Mike. I don't know what you're watching, but Mike hates Spencer Rattler. There you go. Saints, week 4. This is at the very bottom. This game should be a win, no doubt. Next on the list, we have a tie because Joe Flacco of the Browns and Justin Fields of the Jets came in tied. So we're looking at week 18 on the road in Cleveland. And we're guessing that Flacco's going to be the starter. And I kind of wondered if the season gets rolling and they decide to change it up and maybe go with Shedeur Sanders. I wonder how the poll results would change. But for now, we're going to go with Joe Flacco. He's relatively likable. What are you going to do? It's Joe Flacco, but nobody seems to think he's a threat. And then tied with Flacco, of course, is Justin Fields. We see Justin Fields and the Jets on the road in week 2, and we also see them to close out the regular season at home in week 18. Now, same with Fields. With Fields, I kind of always thought that this guy never really got a legit shot. I thought the Steelers kind of did him dirty. He seems like a likable, hardworking guy, and it's just never really all come together for him. But I think he has some tools. I think he can be good, but there you go. I think, in my opinion, the Bills win all 3 of these matchups. Next up on the important scale, week 6, Monday night in Atlanta against the Falcons and Michael Penix Jr. Now, he doesn't really have much of a track record, and I think that's what's ultimately affected his score here. But regardless, if I'm looking at week 6 in Atlanta against the Falcons and Michael Penix, nobody's really fearing him, and nobody really cares about him, so this is a Bills win. Then we have coming in next is another tie, and this is the first spot on the survey where things get a little tricky. So we have week 8 on the road against Bryce Young. Now, this is fine. So far, so good. Young came in at the end of last year, or he started to play really well at the end of last year. I know the beginning was a little bit of a hot mess, but he really turned it on. He started playing a lot better. Hey, maybe he can keep things rolling there with the Panthers. Maybe they can keep adding pieces around him. And maybe in a year or two, they crack the playoffs. But for now, he's not a threat, but he seems like he's easy to root for. So that's what brought him up the list a little bit. But he's tied with C.J. Stroud and the Week 12 matchup on the road against the Houston Texans on Thursday night. In my opinion, I think this game should be higher on the importance list. But Stroud kind of throws off the results of what I thought was going to happen because he seems like a pretty likable dude, at least according to the people who filled out my survey. And I didn't get anybody who wanted to punch his stupid face. So people think he can be a problem, and there were a few that said CJ Stroud made them nervous, but nobody seems to hate his guts, so this game gets dropped down on the importance list. Then we have a 3-way tie. And look, I know we shouldn't have 3-way ties, but science isn't always exact. So here are the results, and I just got to go with what the people tell me because science is science. But we have Tua and the Dolphins for weeks 3 and 10, and Tua is tied with Drake May and the Patriots for weeks 5 and 15. And third in this tie is Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Bucks coming to Orchard Park in week 11. Now, Tua, in my opinion, well, not only in my opinion, but according to the survey results, Tua is seen as a joke of a quarterback and no threat, and he's not really that well liked, so it kind of drives his score up. So I had one person that even wanted to punch Tua's stupid face, but there you go. Drake May, he's seen as a middle-of-the-road quarterback option. He doesn't really push the fear factor needle too much, but people don't really care about him on the likability scale one way or the other, and that's what drove his score to tie with Tua. And then Baker is one of the most likable quarterbacks on the entire list, but he definitely makes people nervous. The Bucs are a good team, and I think this is going to be a tough matchup, so that's what drove his overall numbers up. Then we get to the top 5 games of importance on the schedule, so here we go. The 5th most important game, according to these rankings, we have Week 13 on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. Now, here's the funny thing. Most people ranked Rodgers as not being a threat at all. But multiple people wanted to punch his stupid face, which threw his score way up the charts. So it just goes to show you that hatred is real and just as important as how good you are. as if we're looking at the importance of a game. So everyone wants to beat the Steelers because they hate freaking Aaron Rodgers. Working our way up the list from that point, number 4, the fourth most important game of the week of the season, we have Week 14 at home against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, Cool Joe's love-hate ranking was kind of all over the place. Some people loved him, some people hate him, but his fear factor was extremely high. He even had some season-wrecking points. He scored in that 5-point category multiple times, so it really threw the importance of this game up the list. So now we're seeing that the quality of the quarterback that we're facing really is starting to impact the game. 3 games to go. Number 3 of most important games on the season, the home opener against the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar scored a bunch of season record points, and he fell right in the middle of the love-hate scale, which brought this game down a notch to the 3 spot. Now, I think, in my opinion, this game, this home opener against the Ravens, is the most important game on the schedule. I will not hold anything back. I think this is the most important game on the schedule because I think the Bills and the Ravens are the 2 best teams in the AFC. But again, I can't fight science, so it comes in here at number 3. And then coming in as the second most important game of the year, Week 17 at home versus Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Hurts got some face-punching points as well as making a ton of people nervous to play him and the Eagles. I get it. The Eagles are Super Bowl winners. It's a very solid team all around, but I think the Eagles are just so good that they elevate the quarterback in this situation. It's tough to rank this game here. I would never put this as the second most important game because they're an NFC opponent. So in my opinion, it could never be as important as the game against the Ravens or other AFC teams. But it is what it is, and science says on the important scale, they come in at number 2. And finally, coming in as the most important game on the 2025 Bills schedule, Week 9 at home against Patty Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Not only did he rank the highest and scored the most season record points, but he was by far the most hated quarterback on this list. So many people wanted to punch his stupid face, making this game an absolute must win and the number 1 most important game on the 2025 Bills schedule. So there you go. It was a pretty fun exercise. You know, it kind of proves the point that if people think you're good and they hate you, then it's an extremely important game on the schedule. Good stuff, fun stuff right there. I want to thank all the participants. I'm sure multiple analytics departments will be reaching out to me, wanting to hire me after seeing these amazing scientific results. Wrestling Marks, so you are up next. Let's turn our attention to the squared circle, and I gotta be completely honest with you folks. After last weekend, I was a little, or maybe a lot, burnt out from all the wrestling that occurred. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot. I needed a bit of a palate cleanse after last weekend. I needed to do something a little different. So I figured SummerSlam is almost upon us. I thought, why don't I jump into the DeLorean and take a trip down memory lane, fire up the nostalgia-o-meter, and take me all the way back to 1988, August of 1988, 37 years ago, to the very first SummerSlam event. There was a tagline on this puppy. If you remember, this was, quote, "where the mega powers meet the mega bucks." That's the tagline they slapped on this sucker, and it was just what I needed. After an intense weekend filled with so much wrestling, I needed, like I said, I needed a palate cleanse, and this absolutely hit the spot. So let's take a quick deep dive into SummerSlam 88. If you remember this took place in Madison Square Garden in New York City. A couple things right off the bat. Number 1, this entire show falls in at 2 hours and 29 glorious minutes. 2 hours and 29 minutes. I was thinking about this as I was watching this show, and coming off of AEW All In, which was like 6 hours, I could have watched this show twice and still had an hour left to do something else. So, number 1, awesome time length. Awesome total card length. Another thing I'm realizing is there's no signs yet, and the fans are so close to the ring. They have those old metal barricades set up around the rings, and they may be like 7 to 8 feet from the ring. So when the wrestlers go outside of the ring at certain points, these fans are like on top of it. It's crazy. Another thing, there's police officers everywhere. And back in the 80s, they had some really crazy uniforms, but there's actual police officers spread out throughout the crowd and throughout the entrance ramp. It was an interesting thing to see. And this crowd is crazy. They're crazy. Like I said, there's no signs, but this crowd is loud. They're invested. They're not doing any stupid chants. They're just enjoying their wrestling and they're responding, and it's awesome. So, SummerSlam 88. On commentary, you have Gorilla Monsoon and superstar Billy Graham. Now, if I had one of those clickers that you could count how many times things happen, I would probably have broken it with how many times Billy Graham says brother or my man. I'm like, this is nuts. Like, can you use different ways to refer to people other than brother and my man? But anyway, the show starts out with a tag team match. You have the British Bulldogs, Dynamite Kid, Davey Boy Smith, and their dog Matilda, because we can't forget the Bulldogs have to have a dog, and it's none other than the Bulldog Matilda, which, side note, the other thing I noticed looking back at SummerSlam, the WWF back then, they loved animals and they loved managers. They loved animals and managers because almost everyone had either some sort of animal, and you're going to see it as we go through this, but the managers are pulling like double, triple duty. So it's crazy. But so you have British Bulldogs against the Fabulous Rougeaus, and the place was popping. I mean, it's going nuts. This is a great, solid tag team match. Way to fire up the crowd, get everybody invested. Unfortunately, it ends in a 20-minute draw, which is not something you see very often. I know they just had this with the Lyra Valkyria Bailey match. It was a draw, but 20-minute draw, the match ends, the bell rings, and the ref rules it a draw. But then you get a video package, which was really crazy. You get a video package, behind-the-scenes footage, or actually it was in-the-ring footage of Brutus the Barber Beefcake getting attacked by Ron Bass. Now, I wasn't familiar with Ron Bass. Obviously, Brutus was one of my favorites, but I wasn't too familiar with Ron Bass. Anyway, he attacks Brutus in the ring, and he starts to attack his head and hit him in the head with a spur. Anyway, he cuts Brutus open, and at this point, there's a red X that goes over the center of the TV, and it has the word censored on it. Now, you can still see around the X, which is really crazy, but they're trying to censor the blood, I guess, and the violence of the nature. But anyway, what this is basically saying is Brutus was supposed to have a match against the Intercontinental Champion, Honky Tonk Man, but due to this attack, this vicious, now censored attack by Ron Bass, he is not going to be able to compete. So that obviously sucks. And then we go to Bad News Brown versus Ken Patera. Didn't know who Ken Patera was. This match was fine. It was okay. Bad News Brown hits the Ghetto Blaster, which is essentially a kick to the back of the head. And the other thing I realized watching these matches is these finishers are crazy. Like, they're simple, basic moves that they throw a flashy name on. And something like the Ghetto Blaster, I'm not sure that we would use that name anymore, but he literally kicks the guy in the head, and that's his finishing move, and Bad News Brown wins. So there you go. Now, the next match on this card, we have Ravishing Rick Rude. Now, if you don't remember Ravishing Rick Rude, Bobby Heenan was his manager, and he would come out and he would disrobe, and the ladies would go crazy, and he would put his hands on the top of his head, and he would like twist his hips and do these pelvic thrusts, and the ladies would go crazy and taking pictures with their 80s cameras. It was pretty funny. So Ravishing Rick Rude versus JYD Junkyard Dog. Rude comes down, disrobes, and he has on his tights. They were big fans of like the airbrushing artwork, so they had Junkyard Dog's face on Ravishing Rick Rude's tights, which was pretty funny. So they have a pretty decent match, and then all of a sudden, Rick Rude climbs to the top of a turnbuckle, and he's about to do a move, I don't know, and he drops his outer layer of tights to reveal a second layer of tights that have the face of Cheryl Roberts, who in storyline back then was Jake the Snake's wife. And you don't put another man's wife's face on your, how do I put this? on your groin region of your tights without really pissing off the husband. So out comes Jake the Snake, and he gets involved in the match, and he starts attacking Ravishing Rick Rude. So JYD is DQ'd because of the Snake, Jake the Snake, and that's that match. And then match 4, you have Powers of Pain versus the Bolsheviks. Now, the Powers of Pain were brought out to the ring by the Baron. Now, I don't really remember the Baron too well. Obviously, I know who the Powers of Pain were, but they were fighting the Bolsheviks, who were brought out by Slick, which really, I don't understand the pairing. Needless to say, Powers of Pain win, and that's all I need to say about that. And then the match of the night. So you have Honky Tonk Man, who's the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time at this point. He's in the ring, and as we said before, Brutus the Barber Beefcake is attacked, and he can't compete. So it's going to be a mystery opponent. And during backstage segments, they don't want to announce who his opponent's going to be. He wants it to be a total surprise. So Honky Tonk Man is out in the ring, and he's waiting for Brutus's replacement. All of a sudden, the music of the Ultimate Warrior hits, and the place goes freaking bonkers. Now, it's crazy. I timed it. By the time Ultimate Warrior's music hits, and he is running through the curtain, down the ramp, into the ring, he hits Honky Tonk with 3 punches. He hits him with a slam, a shoulder tackle, a clothesline, and a splash. So 3 punches, body slam, shoulder tackle, clothesline, splash. Way more moves than Goldberg's ever wrestled in his life in a Goldberg match. Way more moves than he's ever used. He hits all these moves, pins Honky Tonk Man in 52 seconds. 52 seconds to defeat the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. This match is awesome. I think I watched it probably 8 times because there's so much going on in this match that if you don't go back and rewatch it over and over, you miss so much stuff. So back then, the ring announcer microphone was attached to a cord, and Ultimate Warrior runs out, and he's in the ring so quickly that they drop the microphone, and the cord is like literally laying in the middle of the ring. Howard Finkel is your ring announcer. He can't even get out Ultimate Warrior's name before Ultimate Warrior is in the ring running around like a lunatic. So Finkel is like running for his life to get out of the ring. The microphone's laying on the mat. And then Earl Hebner, the referee of the match, everybody knows Earl Hebner, he doesn't know what to do. He's running around like a crazy person trying to get out of the way of the Ultimate Warrior because Warrior is like going crazy. He's like a pinball in a machine going all over the place. This is why I loved Ultimate Warrior when I was a kid, because you got this guy wearing all these flashy colors. He's got the face paint. He's got the long hair. He's got the real cool look. And, you know, he's jacked to the hills. We all know why that was. But here he runs out. His music hits, and he's the new IC champ in 52 seconds. And so by the time his music hits, he runs to the ramp, beats the Honky Tonk Man, gets the belt, and runs out all the way back out of the ring. The whole thing, the whole experience, the Ultimate Warrior experience is 1 minute and 51 seconds. It is insane, which is why I absolutely love it. Great freaking match. You can't go wrong with that match. Then you get Don Morocco versus Dino Bravo. What I found funny about this match was they actually called Don Morocco The Rock. So he was The Rock well before Dwayne The Rock Johnson was ever on the scene. And then Dino Bravo, he also had a manager, Frenchie Martin, and Dino Bravo wins off some sort of distraction, and that's it. Really not much to say about it. Then you have the Hart Foundation, so Jim the Anvil and Bret the Hitman against Demolition. Now, Demolition was the tag team champions, and they come down to the ring with not only Mr. Fuji, but Jimmy Hart as well. So they have like this dual manager thing going on. I couldn't really remember why they had both of them, but at some point, Jimmy Hart runs back to the back behind the curtain. He grabs a megaphone. He throws it down. He comes back down. He gives it to one of the Demolition guys, and he hits Bret Hart with it when the ref is being distracted, I believe, by Mr. Fuji, and they retain, and they're still your tag champions. But the Hart Foundation, they're starting to get some traction. They're starting to get some fanfare, and pretty good match. Then you have Coco Beware with the second animal appearance of the night with Frankie. Now, if you remember Frankie, he was a macaw or something like that. I don't know, really crazy looking bird, awesome looking, but Coco Beware had his bird, and he fights Big Boss Man, who also has a manager, and this time he's accompanied by Slick. Now, the MVP of this match, this is crazy. this is crazy. The MVP of this match is Big Boss Man's uniform shirt, because this uniform shirt is pulling like triple duty, folks. By the end of the match, there's like buttons missing, stuff's flopping out of this thing. Boss Man looked super, super heavy. I know he was always a big man, hence the name Big Boss Man, but it was a light blue two-toned uniform shirt, and by the end of it, it's like dark blue because he's sweating so much. It was kind of nasty, but props to the uniform shirt of the Big Boss Man. He hits his side splash, was just literally like a half version of the Bailey to Belly body slam, which isn't very impressive. But anyway, Big Boss Man wins. And then they throw backstage to an interview with your brand new Intercontinental Champion, the Ultimate Warrior. And this is what I love about him. He cuts the most insane promos, and he just rambles for 2 minutes about how he's going to be on the next spaceship to parts unknown. It's amazing. It's so hilarious to listen to some of his old promos. You have no idea what the hell he's talking about. It's absolutely glorious. Then you go on to match 9, and there are 10 matches on this card, and the whole thing is still under 2.5 hours. It's awesome. Hercules versus Jake the Snake, the third animal. Obviously, he's a reptile, but the third creature to make their debut in SummerSlam. Jake the Snake with Damien, the huge python or whatever the hell it was, anaconda, I don't know. But no, it wasn't an anaconda. I think it was a python. But again, with the finisher, Jake the Snake's, his finisher was a DDT. Now you do a DDT today and it's like 30 seconds into the match. They do a DDT back then in 1988 and everyone's going crazy and they think it's the best move in the world. But the crowd goes absolutely nuts when Jake hits his DDT because they know that this is the time that Damien's going to make his appearance. Hercules is essentially unconscious in the middle of the ring after he gets hit with the DDT, and here comes Jake dropping Damien. He throws him out of the bag, and this snake is probably 8 feet long, and he just throws the snake on top of Hercules, and like, I don't know, it's crazy, but that was the way it was back then, and that's why I love and have such a nostalgia factor for 80s and early 90s wrestling. There's nothing. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. And then finally, the absolute main event of SummerSlam 88, you have the Mega Bucks of Andre the Giant and Ted DiBiase with Virgil and Bobby the Brain Heenan, and they are going up against Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, the Mega Powers, Randy Macho Man Savage, with none other than Miss Elizabeth. They went through great detail with this because their gear matches to a T. They got yellow trunks and boots. They got red knee pads. It's awesome. Miss Elizabeth comes out wearing a yellow dress. She's got red armbands. Everybody's matching, even the bad guys. Andre the Giant, Ted DiBiase, they're wearing matching black. It's really well done. So it was nice to see that they even paid attention to some of the details like that. And then Jesse the Body Ventura was a special guest referee. He's not wearing any ref gear. He's literally wearing jeans and like almost what can be described as a blouse, almost like a pirate blouse. It's very strange, but the crowd is straight bananas for this match. They are so jacked. It is crazy. And then it all ends. I don't know if you all remember this match, but at one point, Randy Macho Man and Hulk Hogan are both down on the outside of the ring. All the managers are kind of up. It's kind of a bit of a schmoz fest before schmozes were really a huge to-do. So you have Elizabeth on the ring, you have Virgil and Bobby Heenan, and they're all kind of doing their thing. Next thing you know, you see Miss Elizabeth do this thing where she rips off her skirt to reveal her red, and they're calling it panties at the time, but essentially it's her swimsuit. But she's got the top of her dress on and red underwear, and it distracts everyone. The good guys make a huge comeback, and you see Macho Man hit his diving flying elbow from the top rope, followed by a Hogan leg drop, 1, 2, 3. The celebration ensues, and the place is going absolute bonkers. The ring is now Hogan, Macho, and Elizabeth. They're doing pose off after pose off in their matching gear, and the place goes nuts. And the entire show is wrapped up in a nice 2 hours and 29 perfect, beautiful minutes. I'm rewatching this show, and I'm like, man, I miss some of the old glory days. This is exactly my wheelhouse. This is sometimes what I need to kind of get back to the roots of the whole thing, why I fell in love with wrestling to begin with. Simple, easy, not a lot going on, not a lot you had to think about, but still some good wrestling. You had a lot of people that you could see their trajectory with, like Bret Hart and Jake the Snake and things like that. And then of course your absolute superstars, your Macho Man, your Hulk Hogan. Hacksaw Jim Duggan does an in-ring interview. The place goes crazy for him. So a lot of things going on, but all in all, SummerSlam 88, great show. I encourage everybody, go back to your roots, go back to where it all started, check it out. It will be well worth your time. But anyway, I think that's going to wrap up this episode of the 3Ts podcast. I appreciate everyone stopping in and checking out the show. If you've enjoyed this episode or any other episode of the 3Ts, please do me a favor and share it with someone you know, whether they love the Bills, whether they love the hobby of card collecting, or whether they love wrestling. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to grow this one thing at a time. Help me by hitting that follow, leaving a quick review, whatever you can do to help me out. It would be awesome. I appreciate you all very, very much. So until next time, whether it's ripping packs, breaking tables, or dropping elbows, keep doing what you love. And as always, go Bills.